All right, all right. Hello out there. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. I am Aaron from Solace, back with you yet again for another office hours. It is Tuesday, April, what is it? April 26th, and it's noon here in Singapore. And I'm very happy to introduce my special guest for this week or this month, Derrick. Derrick, welcome to the stream.
Hello, Aaron. Trying to have as much energy as you've got. So it's great to be here.
Welcome to the stream. I think this is our first office hours that we've done together. Is that right?
Yes, you have never invited me before, actually, Aaron. So that's remiss of you on your part, very much.
All right. All right. Well, apologies. I was back home in Canada for several months, half the year last year. So I was doing some with the North American team there. But yeah, happy to have
That
you
was a
here.
little joke,
And
by the way, Aaron. I'm not really
oh,
calling you out. Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, thank you. I actually have another special guest that my cat just wandered in here, so we'll see if she starts making any noise. You might see her wandering around the back there. Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to another office hours. You have Derrick. Actually, Derrick, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, please.
Yes, well, you got my name right, Aaron. So I am Derrick. I am an Englishman living in Melbourne, now an Australian citizen. We actually moved over here in 2005. I've been with Solace for approximately 5 years now, and I was recently promoted, Aaron. So I now run the pre-sales organization in Australia and New Zealand for my sins.
Congratulations.
So I actually love working with Solace. I love engaging with our awesome customers, and things are going pretty well at the moment.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, great to have. I don't think I've ever had a manager on my live stream before, so
Yeah,
that's
well,
that's
there you
pretty
go.
cool.
The first
Well,
time for everything.
I've had my boss. I've had Mark on, so I guess that counts. But
Hmm.
anyway, hello out there. We are here live for 1 hour to answer your questions. We are streaming live on YouTube and on LinkedIn. Put them up in the chat. Uh, say hello where you're joining us from. I got two screens here, so I'm going to try and uh, drive things a little bit here. So I'm going to be looking off to the side. Yeah, tell us where you're joining, listening us to from. Derrick's down in Melbourne. I'm in Singapore. It's a little bit late at night and maybe a little bit early in the morning for Europe yet, but late at night for Americas. But anyway, we're going to spend a little bit of time looking at the Solace community, answering some questions we find there, or live questions if you have them. And if we're lucky, Derrick might actually give us a demo a little bit later on of the Solace PubSub Plus event portal. Is that right?
Mm. That
Mm.
that is spot on, Aaron.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Do you want to tease our listeners what you might be showing us?
Well, I mean, we was having a conversation just before this, Aaron, where we was talking about the developer community, and I was, saying that possibly I'm not the one best place to be advising our developer community, given my lack of development skills these days. However, I'm going to show the community how somebody like myself can use model-driven development techniques to generate a working subscription application or a consuming application from an existing event stream with no code whatsoever. Just basically running it through a number of generation tools to the point where we get a functioning application. And if I can do that, then so can anybody else, quite
Awesome.
frankly, Aaron.
Awesome. So it's not that there's no code, it's just that you're not writing any code, right? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah. I
yeah.
don't write a single line of code. In fact, I don't have to even edit any of the code. It just no, I must admit the first time I did that, and I think we had this conversation, Aaron.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is I was surprised how actually easy it was. A lot of this is work that's been carried out by the async API community, and some of my good colleagues at Solace contributing to that community in the way that we've created these Solace bindings and contributed to the open source efforts from the async API guys. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's real, it's tangible, and it's out there working right now.
So it's so we're going to take a look at the event portal. You have a predefined kind of like application there, kind of drawn up as a GUI, and we're going to build an app from that. That's
yes.
that is awesome.
We're going to generate an app, Aaron.
All right.
I've got to say, just providing a little bit of kind of, there is a real kind of background towards this, although it's a very simple application. It's based on a banking scenario, and what I'm seeing a lot in industry is, a lot of banking organizations operate in many different regions, and there's been a move towards, let's call it globalization or centralization of a lot of that function, obviously because it saves the bank a lot of money to do that. But now a lot of more regional or the local regulators are forcing these banking organizations to be able to operate wholly within the jurisdiction. So should some event occur, like a divestment, for instance. So I guess loosely that's the business scenario that we're dealing with. But obviously the demo is a highly simplified implementation of that, just to demonstrate the process. But it is based on stuff I'm seeing in the field, in the real world.
Nice. Well, if it's nice and short and sharp, we might actually chop it out of this live stream and make it its own video as part of our Solace developer. Or
that would fill me with pride.
All right. So hey out there, hi to Mimi, welcome from Vancouver. So kind of early 9 p.m. I guess back there. Who else do we have? Giri, hello. Bangalore, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Good to have you. Good to have you guys here. Right. So that's enough chat. I'm gonna dive in. Let's pop onto the Solace community and see what we can find. Share my screen here. Boom. There we go. I think it's the right screen. I'm gonna turn that off. That's annoying. Okay, so yeah, head over to Solace community. We have an Easter egg hunt going on right now. I think it's probably getting close to the end of it though. But for the last little while, we've been running this virtual Easter egg hunt where people can win prizes by tuning into various things that we're doing in the developer community. If you haven't checked it out, there's still time. So head over to the Solace.community and check out the virtual Easter egg hunt. Learn a few things.
What are the mentioned impressive prizes there, Aaron?
I don't know.
All right.
I probably should know, because people on my team have been working on this for quite some time.
Right.
I think they're decent prizes. I don't think it's like
impressive.
A mug or a pair of socks or some stickers. I think it's actually something decent. I think it's
so Mimi is basically commenting that
Mimi might know. Yeah.
A drone. You can win a drone.
Oh wow.
That is impressive.
On Wednesday. Oh, that's tomorrow. Heck, well, it's tomorrow for us, but
for us over here in the east, I guess.
All right, a drone. That is awesome. Well, if today's your last chance, everybody, if you're hearing me out there,
hunted.
Get finding your virtual Easter egg there. Hey Sassy from Chennai, hello. Thanks for joining. Sassy. Hello. All right. Right. So I'm on the Solace community. This is our one-stop shop for all things kind of community related. Any news that's coming up? Oh, one big one that Solace is actually helping organize is the upcoming EDA Summit. So developers, architects, ops and admin, people who want to build event-driven systems, May 4th is the date to put into your calendar. I don't know if we have an ad for it anywhere on here, but I've seen mention of it scattered around various places. Yeah, EDA Summit. Check that out. Let's see if I can just Google it. EDA Summit. I can't spell. There we are, edasummit.com. Check that out. There is, it's going to be great. I think it's free. And yeah, it's May 4th. So.
No, it is free. It is 100% free.
Yeah, awesome. So.
No, I mean, last year's event was quite frankly awesome. Is people giving their opinions and very kind of valid opinions on how EDA is developing out there in the big wide world. And I personally got a lot of value from it. And I'm always looking in my my role. I'm in a sales role, so often not involved in the delivery of EDA solutions anymore. But finding these kind of opinionated views on how EDA is developing in the community, I found extremely useful, and I guess many others would also.
So I'm until we get another question here. Oh, we have a few more people. Phil from Montreal. Bonjour, salut, bonsoir, I guess actually, because it's dans la nuit. Hello, thanks for joining.
That's impressive.
Welcome to the stream. What's impressive? Ottawa and Montreal.
No, you're just slipping into French.
I know.
Parlez-vous français?
I know a little French. Paul is saying hi to you, Derrick. All right.
Hey, Paul.
Yank, a special shout out there. Thanks for joining, Paul. So yeah, I'm just until we get a question from one of our avid viewers, I'm just going to go start kind of looking around and take a look at some questions here on the community. So let's just take a look here. He's trying to pass images with a base64 encoded message. That's really interesting. In Solace, when you publish an event or a piece of data, it's as a message, right? And the payload in Solace world can be anything, right? We are payload agnostic. It's opaque to the broker. And yeah, I had a demo like 5 years ago where I was, it looked like video. It was basically a still image every 500 milliseconds or something. And I did a base64 encoding of it, but that's interesting.
No, I too had a demo. So it was for one of the local telco providers here. So they had a requirement to distribute video imaging, and we was basically using some open source software to create samples of the moving image and then publish them as messages. And then distributing those to any subscribers that wanted to, receive that stream. They would then, basically reconstitute the moving image, and it worked awesomely well, actually.
Cool. I know one of our colleagues has built an actual streaming video demo. They took FFmpeg and made each frame was a message. All right, so this guy is essentially, or person, Brian's probably a guy. Is trying to say they're publishing a bunch of messages. It might take a little while for the subscriber to consume because it's a big base64 encoded message, could be a large message, and they want the subscriber to always consume the newest message no matter what. If there's a message it can't deal with, is it possible to configure like that? I'm a Python developer. I heard the term eliding, which I think is relevant. How can I configure that in my Python script? Cool. I can talk about that for just a second. If again, while we're waiting for questions out there, if anybody has a question to ask us live, message eliding is a feature of the PubSub Plus event broker for direct messaging, which is our non-persistent quality of service, where the broker will actually drop messages in order to provide a fixed rate to a subscriber. So let's say you're on your mobile device and you're looking at a stock price ticking or something, right? Or odds or your favorite football match. If the odds are fluctuating 100 times a second, just looking at that visually, that's too much data, right? That's not going to mean anything to you having it go that fast. So eliding, you can basically say, I only want messages every second, every 500 milliseconds, whatever. You basically tell it what to delay, and the broker will actually throw stuff away and only give you the latest message. So it's actually very possible to do this use case doing that. It's implemented with kind of a window on the actual broker. So for each subscriber, there's this like timed window. And if there's a bunch of messages coming in, it just keeps the last one. And then at the end of that window, it just publishes you that message. So message eliding can definitely work here. And how to configure that, you configure that through the client profile. So if I just quickly pull up, let's see here. Let's log into one of my cloud brokers here. Give me a sec. Derrick, do you want to fill the air while I kind of log in here? Just have you ever run into eliding in?
I'm going to say not very often because the customers I've worked with locally have exclusively used persistent messages. So as you mentioned, it does basically, relate to direct messaging, but I'm familiar with the concept. It's really to service when the subscribing application can't necessarily keep up with the the stream of events as they're being streamed through the broker. And it may be that the consuming application as well can interpolate between values that it kind of misses during that when the analytics may be being performed, for example. So
that's right. It is a direct messaging thing only, right? So a lot of our more modern use cases rely on our guaranteed messaging, which is our persistent quality of service. And so for that, there's actually a slightly different answer. There's kind of a similar way of achieving that, and it's called a last value queue, which is essentially a special type of queue. I mean, it's a regular queue, but you configure it in such a way that it literally only holds the last message that was ever published to it. And so in that case, I don't know. We have use cases where people will use it for kind of retaining state. You'll have a last value queue where kind of like you publish one message to it at the beginning of your day, and then from then on, your applications can just browse that queue, and you'll always know that there's that one message that do not delete. All right, let's do this one. So
yeah, I think features like aligning, though, they need to be kind of considered in the context of the use case as well, and whether the application consuming them can actually tolerate the, let's call it, data loss. There would be circumstances where that is, completely okay, and there would be circumstances that it wouldn't be okay. And then you've got to probably take a step back then and say if it can't tolerate any event loss, whether it should be a non-persistent message or a direct message in the first place. So
correct.
It's there's a lot of questions you've got to answer as kind of an architect coming up with a solution using the kind of technology where you're considering the application of the events, and not only our ability to be able to kind of process it in a timely fashion.
Very much.
We did actually get a question, Aaron.
Oh yeah.
From Flame.
I just want to just touch on something that you just said. Yeah, you're elevating this to a much broader architectural question as to like when to use persistent versus guaranteed versus direct messaging. And it's a large architectural decision. It comes down to, can you survive data loss? Do you absolutely need every single message? Do you have a cache or somewhere where you can go and refresh your state even if you did lose messages? Is there retry logic built throughout your system? Like, so if I'm doing request reply and I don't get a timeout waiting for a response, is it fine to just request again? Because that could be a dupe. There's lots of pros and cons to both. Obviously, a higher performance with direct messaging because it's all kind of in memory versus having a disk in the data path. So yeah, those are some really good points, and maybe we'll have maybe some people want to dive into that a little bit more. Where I don't see this question, Derrick. Let me.
I'll read it out. It's from
it's
from Ray from Western Quebekistan.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's actually a reference to the place in Canada or some place I've never heard of. But so it's from Flamebound Gaming. This is more of an anecdotal question, and I know it's not officially supported by Solace, but what is the coolest thing you've done with SDK Perth? So I don't know. People have probably done cooler things than I have, but I do use it all the time, including in this demo that we're gonna do right now or soon.
It just showed up for me. It took a while to come up on my side. I still only have that part though. I'm very delayed apparently. Keep going, Derrick. Keep going.
Yeah, so my kind of experiences with it is just basically I use it when we're doing a proof of concept for generating, generating producers and consuming applications and messaging, etc. I use it for kind of single use case demos as well. Yeah, so my usage. I mean, I've used it to generate things like XA transactions and such likes, but beyond that scope, nothing too flamboyant. But I think it's a great tool, and I use it all the time. And I would say that it probably is supported, isn't it? We give it away for free, but
We give
if
it
you've
away
got
for
any
free, but if we don't officially support in the sense that, like, if you find a bug, it might take a little while to get fixed or something. But
yeah, but I would always encourage any user of Solace, if you do come across a bug, to raise a support ticket, and we'll see what we can do. I can't promise that we would officially, as Aaron says, come up with a fix for that in according to the Solace service level, the same way you would with a supported contract, etc. But at least make the Solace support team aware of it. And I'm sure if it's something that we can fix, or more likely work around, we'll help you get on your way with it.
So as if people don't actually know, SDK Perf is this command line test tool that Solace, the QA department, actually developed years and years ago for testing our APIs, and it's become an indispensable tool for doing things like load testing on the broker when you're doing a proof of concept. You can specify message rate, message size. You can tell it to use random payloads or fixed payloads, all sorts of extra cool stuff. I've been using this tool for a long time. As you can see, I have quite a few different flavors. I have the AMQP JMS SDK Perf, C SDK Perf, which is your highest performance one, JCSMP, JMS MQTT. There's actually a REST SDK Perf as well. I like the C one the most, probably the Java JCSMP one the next most. When I used to do a lot of hardware testing using the hardware appliances, SDK Perf is, again, indispensable for doing latency testing. You can tell SDK Perf to, oh, by the way, the -HM command there, I don't know if you can read that, that's help more. And just so you can see this is all of the command line options that this thing has. It's literally about 10 pages of command line switches. So there's lots and lots and lots of cool stuff that you can do with this. But as I said, yeah, latency testing is built in. You just basically turn it on, tell it to set up a latency flag. Pub and sub from the same host to make sure that your clocks are in sync. Like, you can't be going from one host to another because we're talking, microseconds of resolution here, right? So the coolest thing, I don't know.
I'd be interested in Ray's input here, actually, the question author. He sounds like somebody who has some experience with SDK Perf. So, if you've done something cool with it, Ray, then share it with the group here. I'd be interested.
We should start a Solace community thread on favorite switches or favorite command line options, most useful. Because I can think of a couple. One's right here. You can make a slow subscriber. So you do -SD.
I've used that feature for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun to make your queues back up or something. If you're publishing, if you want to spray across a whole bunch of topics, you can tell it to kind of loop from like 1 to 10,000 or 1 to 100,000 topics.
Well, you can do request reply patterns as well.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Which is very useful. And I've got to say, the first thing I do when I do a new installation of SDK Perf is I actually cat the output of the more help into a file. So maybe other people do that, I don't know, but it's just a little mannerism of mine. So I've got the reference there. I've got to say, it's probably, and the Solace documentation is quite honestly awesome. This is one area where I feel we don't really reflect the full potential with SDK Perf with our online documentation, because it's quite superficial. But when you look at the output of the full help, utility, I can see you using the -MD message dump
message
there,
dump.
isn't it?
That's
Yes,
that's an
yes.
important one. Yeah.
Being
I hope
both
everybody uses
aficionados
that.
of the tool there, that's so I use that as well, particularly when I'm demonstrating topic routing. The value of the message, it allows me to show that. And it's not the most visual tool, but I've got to say, as long as you keep the content of the demo really simple and straightforward, which demonstrates the functionality rather than showing off what is achievable. I feel that it works well for those kind of scenarios. I also use for REST. I use Postman as well as proxy for SDK Perf. So
that's awesome.
Well, Ray's just made another comment here saying he's just getting started with it.
Okay. Yep. Well, you can download it. If you don't know, you can download it at solace.com/downloads, and just scroll to the very bottom or click on that other button there, and you can download whatever flavor that you want. So.
Yeah. So I've got to say, Ray, here's the opportunity for you to be the instigator of the thread that Aaron was talking about. Is start the thread on the community about your favorite SDK perf commands. I know one of our colleagues in the UK who's an aficionado, Tom. Is somebody who's so we have these internal Slack channels where we all share our knowledge, and he's a SDK perf S-tier user. He's a kind of power user. So I'm sure, and he's a very active community member as well. So I'm sure you'll get some great insights from Tom if you do that. So
one tip that not everybody knows is there's actually besides the help, which might actually overwhelm people, there's also HE, which is help examples, and that'll give you some examples of different things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly. So HE,
I've learned something.
You can get some basic examples, and that might start you down the path of
that's awesome.
Knowing where to go. So apologies, Ray, I can't see your next comment, so when it comes up, I'll highlight it there. But yeah.
So he said that he's also using bash scripts, multiple sub-clients to understand with one giant line. So and I've got to say, in performance testing, it's important that you kind of distribute the clients as well. For most accurate performance, I'll tend to, so say we're doing it in AWS, I will stand up a number of dedicated AWS EC2 instances just to run SDK perf, so I'm not getting bound by something on the client side. There is another tool actually that is available to via support request. It's like the Mqtt equivalent of SDK perf, and it's there to be able to generate up to 200,000 client connections. So it's that's a great tool also, but that's not freely available. You would only be able to get that on request from support, and they'd want to know what you're doing with it as well, and give you some advice on how to do it. But it's critical there, because you get bound by most network interfaces only allow 64K addresses. Actually, you can do things in EC2 to add in new interfaces to support that, but it's best again to distribute it across a number of clients. But it's great to see. I mean,
you're talking about MQTT load testing for
connectivity, right? Yes. So I think support used to call it the Madman tool because it used to be able to generate up to a kind of million connections, and they do all kinds of testing. Wow. But fairly impressive to see a single broker supporting 200,000 MQTT connections via MQTT and processing messages also. So that's a little bit that maybe some of our competitors don't be emphasizes the ability to be able to publish messages regularly or subscribe to messages also, not just connected. So that's our philosophy, is that when we've got 200,000 connections, the broker also needs to function as a operating broker as well.
So Tamimi, you asked what my favorite is. I don't know if I have a favorite, but I'll tell you these two are kind of interesting. Burst duration and burst gap. Sometimes you're just looking to kind of simulate load on a router to make it look kind of more real than just exactly 1,000 messages per second or exactly 10,000 messages a second. I've run a shell script where I have about 5 or 10 different SDK perf instances, all with randomized burst durations and interburst durations, and message rates being randomized, and you can get some really kind of cool looking. When you're building monitoring applications, for example, and you want to have cool looking graphs in terms of message rates, that's one of them. So yeah, thanks for all the SDK perf questions and comments. Come find us on Solace community to talk about it more. I'm happy to do that. I love talking about SDK perf. Question from Geary here: what happens to events that exceed the set size limit? Okay, so in the Solace broker, there are 2 different size limits for, actually there's 3, whether you're using direct messaging or guaranteed messaging. If you're using direct messaging, the maximum size is 64 megabytes. For guaranteed messaging, so our persistent quality service, it's usually 30, unless you're using a very small, what we call a low connection tier broker, right? And I think it's 10 megabytes for the smaller size. Derrick,
I think it's 10 by default, actually.
Yeah.
And then you've actually got to increase it to 30 if required.
Yep. So what happens with direct messaging? I think the broker just discards it, and I believe there is a log event that happens on the broker. Like you'll see a message too large, discarded. There's a statistic that also gets incremented. So as an administrator, if you're watching your broker stats and logs, you'd be able to see this occurring. You wouldn't know what the message was because it's been discarded, but you would see that there was a discard. For guaranteed messaging, I'm pretty sure the message will get negatively acknowledged by the broker. Either you'll get nacked or you'll get disconnected, depending on the protocol that you're using. If there's a problem taking that large message. There's actually some work being done in the APIs right now on handling large guaranteed messages. Direct messages, I mean, that's kind of fire and forget, right? So as a publisher, you're not aware of any error condition. But for guaranteed messages, yeah, there's work being done right now to kind of handle some corner cases more gracefully. But I'm 90% sure you get a knack, like the broker will knack your message if it's too large. Yeah, thanks for the question. Ray, I just saw your comment pop in here. I don't know why it's so delayed on my side, but just starting to get used to it, trying to create a use case with it. Need to dig into more burst functionality. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, I pre-answered that question, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's yeah, just run a curl script with like 10 instances and just randomize their rates and their burst duration and interburst duration, and yeah, you can get some very cool kind of looking traffic that looks a little bit more random and stuff. So what oh, Geary has another question here. What happens? No, we already seen that one.
Yep.
More specifically for direct versus guaranteed. Okay, yeah. So I kind of answered that. So yeah, 64 megabytes direct. No, the publisher doesn't know. Actually, I think there is an event that the API, if you're using the Solace SMF APIs, I believe there's actually, I think the API, I'd have to go and look, but it's 64 megabytes for the direct, 10 or 30 for the guaranteed messaging, depending on the quality of the broker size that you're using and if you've upped it. And for the guaranteed, you'll get a knack. So, and if you've seen different, let me know, because I might be out of date on this. So. Cool. Thanks for the question. Let me just finish up a lighting here, because we were talking about that a little bit ago. I've already been logged out of my broker here. And then Derrick, I want to take a look at your demo, because I want to make sure that we have enough time to.
I'm dying to show it you, Aaron.
I'm excited to see it. So this is one of my demo brokers I have running in Singapore. You can see I got a bunch of messages coming in. This is actually my bus demo. If anybody is out there, this is where my bus demo runs. So to turn on a lighting, yeah, you go into access control here, and you're going to go into the client profile. And I've got an extra one here called direct, but let's look at the default one. And so the client profile, so every username, like when you log into the broker, you specify your username. That username is associated with a client profile, which determines a lot of your messaging kind of behavior and what you're allowed to do, and a ACL profile, which is kind of what topics you're allowed to publish on or subscribe to, right? Either an allow list or a deny list. But yeah, so the client profile is where you're going to find this. You can obviously set up guaranteed messaging permissions and things like that. But if you scroll down here at the bottom, yeah, this is where message alighting is enabled. So if I turn this on and then say I had a delay millisecond of 1,000, you know, for like 1 second, right? So kind of the how long your window is. Then every message that's published that has a flag called alighting eligible would kind of be alighted by the broker. So it is kind of a two-step thing. The client profile for the subscriber has to be enabled, and the messages being published by the publisher have to have this special flag called alighting eligible. So those are the two things that are kind of important to see. And for the last value queue, that's even easier. Literally, go make a queue. Again, it's just a regular queue, so call it anything you want. I'm just going to call it LVQ because that's what I'm making. The way to make it a last value queue is just to set the message queued quota, essentially the size of the queue, to 0. If you set it to 0, yeah, it even says over on the side here, I don't know if you can read that. A value of 0 only allows spooling of the last message received and disables quota checking. So you can literally, your queue will just hold on to whatever was last received. So if you subscribed your queue to a bunch of topics, whichever message was last received on that topic would be stuck in your queue. So yeah, that's it. Easy peasy. So that's how we did. So that was a question from the community here. It was all about alighting and LVQ. I will get back to his question 2 if we have a chance. But Derrick, I really want to see your demo. I want to make sure that we don't run out of time for you here.
I don't think we'll run out of time.
How about, well, if it's quick, maybe we'll get some questions at the end. We can talk about it. Right?
It might take a few minutes.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put your screen on the screen. And if you can pull up the portal there, I will we'll go ahead and show your demo. So stay tuned, everybody. We're going to see a live demo of code generation from no code, etc. All right, you're on the air, Derrick. I can see your screen.
Perfect. And you're gonna have to be my wingman here, Aaron, because I can't see any of the comments now.
That's right.
Because I've got
Only
this fully in my screen. So right. I'm going to be operating primarily in the role of an architect. And I've been tasked with implementing a new business requirement here. And Aaron and I had a quick discussion about this before. Maybe some of you joined, so I'll just revisit that. So we work with a lot of banking customers, including here in Melbourne. So this is a kind of real requirement we're seeing in the field, where there's been a strong move. A lot of our banking customers operate in many different regions, in many different countries. There was a strong move to what may be called centralization or globalization, where the local functions from the operating regions was outsourced into the central banking organization. Now, because of regulation, these organizations are being forced to adopt a different operating model. I mean, one such example of this is in the New Zealand region. There's a regulation called BS11, and essentially it's a regulation to protect the banking consumer. So if the you know, the functions are being outsourced, maybe into Australia or wherever it's being done, then under certain operating conditions, maybe in you know, an IT failure or even in a business divestment, the consumer in New Zealand is not impacted by this. So what it essentially means is some of that function has got to be able to be operated on in that local jurisdiction, i.e. in New Zealand in this case. Now, so to look at what tooling I used and how I actually went about this this task. So I'm operating wholly in our Solace cloud platform. So the cloud platform is organized in capabilities on the left here. So the cluster manager and the mess manager is all about how I operate our Solace event brokers and how I connect these for what we call event mesh or clustering. I'm going to be working primarily for this model-driven design activity in the event portal. So the event portal, and I'm assuming some knowledge here, prior knowledge here. So the event portal is the capability within our platform, which is analogous to API management. So it's the ability to be able to, first of all, represent artifacts or first-class artifacts like applications, events, schemas, and how those interact, but also then to use that to enforce an engineering discipline in how we actually create our applications. That's the model driven aspect of it through an open source initiative called Async API. So, and we'll delve into that a little bit as we go through it. And also there's this thing here called Insights, which is the observability and monitoring frameworks that Solace Cloud has. So, you know, you can effectively monitor and manage your brokers and your event streams as they're implemented in the real world. So like I say, I'm here in the event portal right now in the designer component, and you can see I've already pre-created this application domain. So an application domain is simply you know, a domain of work or a scope where I'm going to create these artifacts that I talked about previously. So if I double click into that, I've got my existing event stream here. Hopefully you can all see that. When I've got this thing called a payment router. So this is an application. This is a producer application. I can see from the arrows which are being generated. I've got this thing here called a payment event, and it's going to this consuming application here called all payments, and we'll drill into that a little bit shortly, because it's good to see the comparison. Are you wanting to jump in there, Aaron?
No. Yeah, I want to see what's inside this event here that is talking between.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll start with the event.
Okay.
So I'll double click into the event, and that's really how we operate it. You get a visual depiction of what the artifact is, and then we can drill in to see the metadata that's associated with that.
Zoom in a few clicks there, Derrick. It's hard to read on the small screen there.
How's that?
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. I can read that.
That's good. Completely stuffed my screen up, but just for you, Aaron, I will take that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go into edit mode here because we see a little bit more information. This payment event has got a name. It's versioned. It's got a description. I've just put in here a simple payment event. And when we scroll down a little bit, we get to see some of the juicier information. So I've associated this with what's called a logical event mesh. Now, simply put, a logical event mesh provides a namespace for the item I've got the next level, which is this topic address. So a topic address, and again, I'm assuming a little bit of prior knowledge here, but within Solace, a topic is hierarchical. It is tokenized by these forward slashes here, and each level is descriptive either as a literal. So I've got this thing called payment here, which is a literal. are a variable, which here I've got a enumerated variable. So you can see that my payment type can be RTGS, MPP, or a transfer. Geography, which we're actually going to use as a key field for filtering and routing. But I've noticed a typo there. Our version, which simply, and payment ID, which are simply, free-form variable values, i.e. the version of the topic, and the payment ID obviously is going to change from each payment. Now, these types and variables will be set by the publishing application as it's presented to the broker. And those fields can then be used by the subscribing applications to request either all of the data or filtered subsets of the data through the routing capabilities of the broker, or more likely in this case, the event mesh, which is a collaboration of brokers. Hopefully that all makes sense to you guys out there. And we've got a schema. Now this is a simple JSON schema I just downloaded from the internet, and it's basically the representation of the message body as it's presented in the message as it's published to the broker and presented to the subscribing or the consuming applications. Now, I haven't done it here, but I can also assign tags to this. Now, tags are really useful. Obviously, when we're working in our cloud applications, a lot of the way that the behavior is assigned to our cloud assets is governed by tags. And similarly here, we can add in these tags. So I might want to say, I'm going to create a tag called New Zealand. Or I can create another one for AU.
I find tags really useful if you have a lot of events or domains and you kind of need to group things together, right? It helps you do some filtering later on too.
Absolutely. And they're really useful because in the catalog where we can search all these artifacts that we're creating here, it will also search on the tags that I've created here. So it's another mechanism that we can use to make, to democratize our events, to make them available to kind of all parties. But I'm going to cancel that. So we've had a look at the event. So the event there is a topic essentially and a payload, which is defined in this case by a JSON schema. I might just try and my wheel isn't working.
Just move your dots. Just move.
Sorry, my wheel is a bit dodgy. So hopefully you can see all that on the one screen now.
Yeah. So just move them closer together. Just slide it over.
Okay. So that's a lateral thinker there. I like it. So currently we've got this event stream. It's this payment event is being published by this payment router, and it's being consumed by this this application here called All Payments. Now, there is a significant step that you need to go through. So first of all, I mean, the thing that I can see is just by the line, just by observing the payment flow, is that this application is consuming this event type. Now, at that level, that's all I can see, is that it's consuming to that event type. But we need another level of fidelity to ensure that we're receiving the events that we as a subscriber are interested in. Now, this is where the kind of rubber meets the road in terms of, let's call it the binding. So I can go down to this next level of fidelity by introducing this concept called a client delivery endpoint. And what does that do? Well, it allows me to create this thing called an endpoint, which when we actually run this thing in the broker is essentially going to be a queue. And it's going to be a queue that the subscriber binds to. But within Solace, to attract the relevant messages for that queue, i.e. to subscribe to that event stream, we're able to apply a subscription onto the queue. And in this case, I'm just subscribing to everything. So these asterisks represent wildcards at the necessary levels. So it means that I'm just subscribing to everything. And, that makes sense given that our application at this stage is processing all our payments. Okay, so now I want to move into design mode. I've identified that this is the relevant stream for me, and this is the payment event type that I want to consume. So I'm going to now create a new application, which is called NZ Payments. I'm going to leave all the metadata the way it is, just for brevity's sake. And that's all I'm going to do. Now, so the next stage in my design process is I want to associate it with the payment event. Now, I could have done that when I created this application, but I like the old drag and drop feature, so I'm just going to drag it from the payment event into the NZ payment application. And that's it. Now, I've associated it with the event type. So as we spoke about previously, we need to now apply that next level of fidelity. So we're only receiving those events. And that's critical for this application because we're only interested where the geography, so this level in the hierarchy, corresponds to New Zealand. So for that, I'm gonna I want to create a, I've got to edit it. I'm going to create a client delivery endpoint. And I do that by pressing this thing here. I'm going to call it nz.q, applying my, queue naming standards. And I'm going to add a subscription by event. Now, it will present me with which events are associated with that application. So we've already linked it, this thing called payment event, the event type. So I'm going to add a subscription into that. Now I'm presented with this wizard. That allows me to use the enumerated values to basically further filter the events that are required. Now, in this case, the only ones I'm interested in, those which correspond to, and I've got to say it's triggering me, this typo I've done here, but the NZ. So I'm only interested in those geography NZ. So I've selected that in there. I'm going to add subscription, and you can see now it has generated that subscription. I've got the literal payment. I've got a wildcard at the second level, which is payment type. So I'm interested in all payment types, just geography, NZ, version, any version, and payment ID, any version. Any payment ID. And I'm going to select that, and I'm going to add the subscription. And then I'm going to create the endpoint, and I'm going to save it.
Derrick,
so now,
5-minute warning, man. It's
I've got a 5-minute warning.
Yeah, you're 5 minutes.
I didn't realize I was time bound here.
We're almost done.
When I was invited, but okay,
okay,
we're almost there.
Office hour.
Okay, so so the next stage is now I'll fully define my application. So next we want to go into the code generation phase, and to do that, now async API. Those of you familiar with maybe SOAP web services. So async API creates a document template, which is unambiguous definition of how, as an application, I would connect to a technology and subscribe to that event. So basically, it's the engineering implementation of this model that I've just configured here. And to do that, I simply download the async API. download it. I'm not going to do this because I've done it earlier. And we'll take a quick look at that. So this is the document that's actually been created there. I'd urge you to go and have a look at the async API page, but there's definitions. Go on.
It looks very similar to Swagger or standard like open API.
Perfect. Yes. And I've got to say there is a strong affinity with open API and Swagger definitions, and a lot of the guys who actually work on that specification are also working on the async API work as well, to the point where they are predicting in the future we'll only have one specification which will cover APIs and async APIs just to be an API. But there is differences, obviously. And like I said, I'd urge you to look at the information that's available in the public domain. Okay, so what have we done? We have modeled our application and we've created this document template. So the next thing we're going to actually do is to generate the code. Now, okay.
Yeah, no,
so
again, keep going. Yeah.
Oh, you may not see this very well, and I'm not sure I can actually increase the size of it.
Oh my gosh.
But there is a Node application code generator which I've installed onto my Windows system for Linux, which generates this. And again, I'd urge you to look at the information that's available. So I'm using the Spring Cloud Stream framework, which is well documented in the async API GitHub repository. Sorry, I'm jumping around a bit here, but essentially I generated the code.
It's a command line tool that you just you download and install, and you point it to the spec file that you generate from the portal, and then that's it. It just builds you an app. Right.
Well, it builds you so it builds a Maven project, which I've installed. I basically imported it into Eclipse here. So we'll spend a couple of minutes looking at what that actually is.
You're gonna have to zoom in, man. There's no way I can read that at all.
No. Well, I don't know how to zoom in with Eclipse, man.
Control.
Oh, just a minute. Yeah, Control plus is doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking in the resource. So anybody familiar with, the Spring Boot framework would be familiar with this. So there's application.yaml, which are some of the dependencies that are going to be injected when the code is actually run. And you'll see here I've got the, this has been generated from the async API file, which is the subscription. And also, one of the things I've not mentioned is I have a Solace Cloud Broker, which is going to be the kind of implementation here. So I've got the, the base configuration for that as well, message VPN, host, and the generated Solace Cloud client username. Okay, now it also generates a application file. And this is it. So I have added nothing to this. This is just a Spring Boot application, and it creates this consumer application, which all it's going to do is essentially connect to the broker. You'll see, and I'll show that in a minute, it creates a temporary queue with the subscription on it as defined in the model. And then it will publish its output in this logger here, which we can see in the console. Now, the final thing which is generated is just this Java representation of the payment JSON file, which again is being generated from the async API definition. So if you need to, get or set any of the attributes present in the JSON file, this is the class that's allowing you to do that. Now, before we actually run that, I will point out. Am I running out of time?
No, I'm excited to see it run. Just like without.
Well, I'm just trying to build that excitement to a crescendo.
And we have one more question. We have one more question before we wrap. So yeah.
Okay. So I do have a SDK Perth, very topical, generating the messages going into my broker, which we can have a look at here. So I created a broker earlier. I just called it Aaron's Office Hours. Well, I'm not sure why I called it all, but yeah, it seemed to make sense at the time. So this is we call this the mission control. So it's the ability to be able to kind of administer the broker. So I've got a couple of queues set up. So I've got this one thing here called payments. So this is my existing event stream. And if I do you want me to make it a bit bigger?
That would help. Beauty. Thank
you. So I've got this payments. So if I look at the subscription there, it's subscribing to everything. So this is another wildcard representation. It means everything under payment is basically going to go into that queue. And if I refresh this, you'll see that the messages here are increasing. So our existing application is functioning as we would be expecting it. Now, what I'm going to do now is, so just a quick recap, just to keep Aaron on edge a little bit more, is, so we've modeled it, we've created our template definition, we've run it through our code generator, and we're about to now introduce our new application. And we've not impacted, it's important to mention, we haven't impacted the existing producer and consumer, no changes to those. Absolutely no code other than the generated code. So it does actually tell you to add business logic here, and even the logger was generated. Right. So I'm simply going to now run my application, and I'll try and get this. And you're gonna have to take my word for it, but these are the payment applications. Yeah. So it's the payment events. So it's been able to connect to the broker, introduce this temporary queue, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. Apply the correct subscription, and we've not had to write a single line of code. Now, whilst I've been doing this, interactively using the event portal, there is also an event portal API. So I could have done this without any interaction whatsoever. So all I would have needed to provide is an application name, and maybe some kind of stereotype for that application. That could have been introduced into my CI/CD framework, could have gone off and created the artifacts in the event portal, and then could have automated the production and generation of the code. So not only did I not need to be into the event portal, all of the functions that I've done could have been completely automated. So Derrick, you can see
we have a question from Tamimi.
Okay.
On this specifically, and then I have another question on something unrelated. Is the generated async API spec file from Event Portal already configured with the new client delivery point? So when you create a new client delivery point.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes. So it's if we go back to the file that we was looking at before, so in async API, there's no client delivery point concept, but there is this concept of so this channel essentially represents the client delivery endpoint. You can see that it's being implemented as a queue.
Zoom in, Derrick.
Okay.
Yeah.
This won't zoom. Just
control wheel.
Oh, just a minute. Zoom in. Control mouse wheel. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, nice.
I am becoming a zooming expert with your guidance.
It's these live streams. Yeah, it's hard to read something.
Yeah. So here we are. So to answer Tamimi's question, so that information is represented in the async API. So there's these concepts called a channel. So essentially, because the binding is selected as Solace, we're able to input this information relating to the CDE. So here the CDE is implemented as a queue. You can see the queue name is the CDE the name of the CDE that I gave it in the event portal. And also that it is implementing a topic subscription, which is identical to that which I defined in the event portal. So absolutely, yes, to Mimi, it is. The answer is yes.
That's
there
a
was
pretty
one
nice
last
little
thing. Oh, there was one last thing I was
demo.
gonna just
Oh, yeah.
to hold your horses there, Aaron. We have one last thing to show. So I'm gonna now refresh the data here in our queue view on the broker, and you'll see that this temporary queue has been created via the act of the Spring Boot application or the Spring Cloud Stream application connecting to the broker. It's created this endpoint based on the CD endpoint description, and you'll see that it has the subscription applied, which basically it's got from the async API template, which has come from the event portal definition. So that's it. That's it. The reason why this is not accruing messages, although the messages are being published there, is due to the fact that obviously they're being read off by this application, which is logging them to the console. So that's it. That concludes my demo, Aaron.
Awesome.
So I'm going to stop that application, and you will see that the queue basically disappears.
Yep.
And I think it's awesome. You know,
you'd still have to write the business logic, I guess, would be the part that to do, right? Like if you want to draw it to the screen or publish it to a database or make some REST call or something, you would then do something with your message, I guess. So,
but that is the non-deterministic component of our application, isn't it? Everything else which revolves around how, as an application, do I produce or consume event, can all be derived from the model created in the event portal. So, and that's a giant step forward as far as I'm concerned in how we create event-driven applications.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Right, sorry if I took too much time there.
No, that's great. I'm just going to let's put us back to talking heads here. You don't have to share your screen anymore. I do have a question from Sassy. He asked like 15 minutes ago. I just want to cover it before we break for the month. Is it possible to find the subscriber client name based on the topic string in Solace? So is it possible to look through all the clients and find it based on a subscription? Not exactly, but you can look through all of the subscriptions that every client has. There are REST commands for this. I just don't know them off the top of my head, and I don't know exactly what has been exposed via the portal. So I'm just going to do CLI, and if you want to follow up on more details, I don't have CLI because I don't have my Docker container running. Okay, so every client, you can look at their number of subscriptions, right? And you can find out what subscriptions they have. So you could just write something that says, show me every client, show client star, essentially, and then look at their subscriptions and kind of grep through that. That's not that unusual to do. If you have a huge number of connected clients, there are more efficient ways of getting that data. So you can actually query the subscription management component directly. So you can say, for this message VPN that I'm looking at, show me every subscription, and it'll tell you which clients are subscribed to that. I think it tells you which clients, not just the count.
No, I mean, I kind of read that question a little bit differently, actually. So what Sassy seems to be asking is, as a subscriber, can I see which client name produced that client name of the publisher of this topic.
Well, this is looking. He wants both. So there's another comment here that they want to find a client name of the publisher as well as the subscriber to this topic. So yeah, subscriber is easy because subscriptions are something that are actively managed by the broker, right? When you connect and you subscribe, the broker keeps track of that subscription in its subscription management database. Publishers on topics, the broker does not track like topic by topic metrics and stats. There's no log file of every message that comes into the broker because that's just like, these things can do a million messages a second. So unless you are public, there's fields in the Solace message. There's a publisher ID field or a sender ID, I think it's called, that you can specify. A lot of our customers have kind of best practices that if you're publishing messages using Solace, you have to populate this sender ID field so that exactly you can find out who actually sent this message, right? So when you're trying to debug, who is the person that published last on this instrument, you can find out who the publisher was. But unless the publisher is actually setting that field, you don't know on the topic by topic level.
Yeah.
For guaranteed messaging, it'll be different with the track and trace, right? We're building this tracing feature. And that's for guaranteed messages. But for direct messages specifically, no, that's you have to make sure that you put that in the message itself.
I think some of the APIs might be different as well. So, I mean, Mqtt certainly has a feature of a client ID, which has to be unique. So I'm not sure whether that is a component of the Mqtt header when it's published in there.
I don't think so. I think you can add it as, Mqtt 5 now supports key value pairs, right? Like user properties essentially. And so you can, but I'm 90% sure because it's an ultra lightweight protocol. I don't think it includes the publisher ID.
Well, again, I'd encourage Sassy to create a question on the developer community, and we will put our best minds on it. That'll be people other than me.
that is always it's always a good way to kind of like carry on these conversations afterwards. So yeah, tag Aaron, tag Derrick on the community so it pops up into our little feed, and maybe.
But the point to note here is that if it's actually published somewhere in the message header when the message is published, then it would be available to the subscribers. And there's, there is the facility for that to be enabled, i.e. to, basically record the client ID of the publishing application when the message is actually published into the broker. So it's something you can do, whether it's default behavior, obviously we're not sure.
One thing I just thought to mention is often some people there's actually kind of built-in logging in the broker specifically for publishing on topics that nobody is listening on. So there's an in-memory, it's not written out to a file, it's basically a circular ring buffer log that every time you publish on a message that nobody's listening on, it adds it to this log file called the no subscription match. So not log file, but log called no subscription match log. And again, I don't have my Docker container running here locally, and so I can't see live, but there is, again, the REST API can query it. It's our SEMP API. And this is the kind of results that you can get back from it. So this is the timestamp when that message was published, who published it, and what the topic was that nobody was listening on. So if you're looking for specifically someone's publishing on stuff that they shouldn't be or that nobody's listening to, you can actually query the broker for this no subscription match log. And they're building this into the portal soon, but for now you can actually just run it as a SEMP script. And I'll put a link to it's in my GitHub, so I'll just put a link to that quickly.
Well, I think you've kind of prompted me to talk about a kind of upcoming roadmap feature there as well, Aaron.
Sure.
So we're very excited about the upcoming feature, which we call distributed tracing, based on the Open Telemetry framework, which is the ability to be able to, track messages as they propagate through not just a broker, but the event mesh as well, down to the granularity of individual messages or events. So if there is a gap in functionality, default behavior, that would certainly be provided, pretty soon. They're expecting that to be available as well. Certainly within, I'd say, 1 quarter from now, there would be, the first release of distributed tracing. So that would certainly meet SAS's requirement.
It's still only for guaranteed messages, right? So not for direct. So
yeah.
It's going to cover part of the use cases here. Apologies, by the way, I forgot I wasn't sharing my screen, so I just kind of put this back up. But
okay,
this is what the log file that no subscription match log looks like. It'll tell you who published it, which name, the timestamp, and the topic that nobody was listening on. But it doesn't exist for everything. It's only for the name. So Sassy asked a follow-up question here. Will the discovery agent help us find publisher subscriber based on the topic string? I believe so. Yeah, I haven't got the full. I haven't read the feature description architecture document yet, but again, it's going to be for guaranteed messaging specifically, because that's usually where you want to do kind of non-repudiation. And did you publish on this topic? Yes, I did. Did you receive it? Yes, I did. Here's where the acts happen, stuff like that. So it's only for guaranteed messaging. Anyway, stay tuned for that. I'm sure we'll make an announcement on the Solace community when we actually get that, when that feature comes out, right? So, yeah, you know what, Derrick, I think, that's a good amount of questions, and we had an awesome demo there.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks for that. Thank you very much for
my pleasure
for being my guest speaker there. Phil says thanks. All right, cool. We try to do these once a month. I might actually be on vacation for a good part of May, so we might not do it next month. Maybe. But
now you've had me on, Aaron. You won't be able to get rid of me, obviously.
No, I gotta rotate.
There's so much demand for me to return that
I gotta rotate my guest there, Derrick. But anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Come find us on Solace community if you have more questions.
Seriously.
We're happy to chat there. Derrick, again, awesome job on the demo. That was fun.
You too, man.
All right, good to see you, man, and hopefully
you too.
In person soon, right?
Yes, very soon, actually. Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.